14:33 p.m. Gulf of Oman, 91 nautical miles southeast of the Strait of Hormuz. An Iranian Shahed series reconnaissance drone just overflew the USS Theodore Roosevelt at 800 feet, slow, steady, cameras running, completing a full photographic pass over the carrier's flight deck before anyone aboard could intercept it. By the time the F/A-18 launched to chase it, the drone had transmitted its data package. Someone in Iran now had high-resolution imagery of America's most powerful carrier's current position, speed, heading, flight deck configuration, and the number and type of aircraft aboard. What happened next, and what the U.S. Navy discovered when it analyzed the full scope of the surveillance operation, revealed that the tracking had been happening for 11 days before anyone realized it. Welcome to Navy Poverline, where we break down the operations that happen before the fighting starts, and why they matter more than most people know. In naval warfare, information is the precondition for everything that follows. Before a missile can be fired accurately, someone needs to know where the target is. Before a drone boat can be aimed, someone needs to know the target's course and speed. Before a submarine can position for an attack, someone needs to have tracked the target long enough to predict where it will be. The surveillance operation is not the weapon. It is what makes the weapon possible. Iran has understood this for decades, and its investment in maritime surveillance capability, particularly unmanned aerial systems designed for persistent, low observable tracking of U.S. naval assets, reflects a doctrinal commitment to the intelligence preparation of the naval battlefield. The IRGCN does not expect to defeat the U.S. Navy in a straight conventional fight. It expects to create conditions under which specific targeted strikes against specific located targets become survivable operations. And creating those conditions requires knowing where the carrier is before you commit assets. The USS Theodore Roosevelt Carrier Strike Group had been operating in the Gulf of Oman for 17 days when the drone overflight occurred at 14:33. The strike group's standard operating posture during this period included anti-air warfare watch, with F/A-18S on deck alert, capable of a 5-minute intercept launch. The air picture was monitored continuously. Iranian military aircraft, commercial traffic, and the routine P-8 Poseidon patrols that provided the strike group with its own ISR picture were all tracked and logged. What was not being consistently tracked was the low end of the radar return spectrum. The Shahed series reconnaissance variant, designated by Iranian forces as the Mohajer family in its earlier configurations and subsequently developed through multiple variants with differing sensor and communication packages, is a small, slow, propeller-driven unmanned aircraft. Its wingspan is approximately 3.5 meters. Its maximum speed is around 200 kilometers per hour. It flies at altitudes ranging from 200 feet to 15,000 feet depending on the mission profile. Its radar cross-section is small, comparable to a large bird at lower altitudes. Its acoustic signature is minimal. Its thermal signature is low. In a radar-dense environment like a carrier strike group's air picture, with commercial aircraft transiting at altitude, military aircraft operating across multiple sectors, and the noise floor of sea clutter and weather returns, a small, slow drone flying at 800 feet on a direct overpass course can present a detection challenge that is qualitatively different from a conventional air threat. The Roosevelt's air picture on the day of the overflight had flagged the contact at 14:28, 5 minutes before the overflight. The contact had been assessed initially as a possible commercial UAV or a false return. The track was inconsistent. The radar was picking it up and losing it in clutter every few sweeps. The watch officer had assigned it a track number and queued it for assessment. The 5-minute assessment window closed at 14:33 when the drone crossed the carrier's position at 800 feet on a straight, slow, level pass from northeast to southwest. The F/A-18 deck alert launch was ordered at 14:34. The drone was 6 nautical miles southwest and transmitting when the F/A-18 cleared the catapult. The intercept geometry was not favorable. The drone's heading was taking it northeast toward Iranian airspace. At 200 kilometers per hour, it was slow, easy for an F/A-18 at 500 knots to catch. The problem was authorization. An unmanned aircraft that had overflown a carrier at 800 feet and was now heading toward its home country represented a threat category that the existing rules of engagement did not address cleanly. It had not fired. It had not taken any hostile action other than flying over the ship with a camera. Shooting it down was tactically simple. The legal and political justification required a determination that had not yet been made. The FA-18 pilot achieved intercept geometry at 1,437. The drone was at 14 nautical miles, still transmitting, still heading toward Iran. The pilot requested weapons free. 5th Fleet Duty Officer response. Request forwarded to flag. Standby. At 14:39, the drone crossed into Iranian territorial airspace. The FA-18 broke off the intercept. The drone was gone. The after-action review that followed the overflight was initially focused on the 5-minute detection window and the procedures for small UAV threat assessment. It produced useful updates to detection protocol, but it was a secondary analysis, a broader examination of all radar and SIGINT data from the preceding 11 days, that produced the finding that was classified at the highest level and distributed to a restricted list of commanders. The Roosevelt had been tracked by Iranian drone surveillance for 11 days before the overflight. The secondary analysis identified 17 separate track instances over that period in which small contacts, previously assessed as birds, false returns, or commercial UAVs, had appeared in the strike group's radar picture at the edges of detection range, held position for between 8 and 40 minutes, and then disappeared. 17 instances, spread across 11 days, appearing at varying times of day and night, never close enough to trigger a formal assessment, never consistent enough to form a pattern that any individual watch officer would recognize across multiple shifts. The pattern was only visible when all 17 instances were plotted together on a single chart. When plotted together, they showed a systematic, methodical, persistent surveillance campaign. The Iranian drone operators had been building a data set. Position, speed, course, formation geometry, air-wing activity patterns, alert posture timing, and the specific radar blind zones around the strike group where small contacts could approach without consistent detection. 11 days of data, 17 collection events, all of it transmitted back to Iranian intelligence before being recognized. The tactical picture that Iran had assembled of the Roosevelt strike group at the moment of the overflight was, by the assessment of the Naval intelligence team reviewing the data, substantially complete. They knew the carrier's typical operating area. They knew its speed and course variance patterns. They knew the alert posture cycle. They knew which quadrant of the formation presented the lowest radar coverage. The overflight at 14:33 was not a reconnaissance mission. It was a confirmation run, a final high-resolution pass to update the targeting solution with current imagery before it was needed. Before the intelligence community's assessment of Iranian intent during the 11-day surveillance period was delivered to the Roosevelt's battle group commander 4 days after the overflight. The assessment was classified at the TS/SCI level. Its key judgment: the surveillance campaign was consistent with pre-strike targeting preparation, specifically the development of a targeting package for Iranian anti-ship ballistic missiles, the Khalij Fars series, which requires accurate carrier position data to within a specific error margin to achieve the desired circular error probable at extended range. The Khalij Fars is Iran's anti-ship ballistic missile. It is a short-range ballistic missile modified with a maneuverable re-entry vehicle designed to strike moving surface targets. Publicly assessed range, approximately 300 kilometers. Warhead, estimated at 650 kilograms. Its guidance system requires periodic position updates on the target to refine the firing solution. Those position updates can come from overhead surveillance, specifically from drone overflights that provide current imagery. Iran was not necessarily planning to fire. The intelligence assessment was clear about the distinction between targeting preparation and targeting execution. Building the package does not mean the order has been given to use it. But the package was being built. That finding reached CENTCOM in the Pentagon's operational watch floor and triggered a specific set of responses that were not publicly announced. The Roosevelt's operating area was shifted. The battle group moved 140 nautical miles east, outside the effective range envelope of the Khalij Fars from its assessed launch positions. The position shift was framed publicly as a routine adjustment for logistics and maintenance operations. It was not. The air defense posture of the strike group was upgraded. The F/A-18 deck alert posture was reduced from 5 minutes to 3 minutes for the duration of the deployment. The radar coverage protocols were revised to include a dedicated small target detection mode specifically tasked against the low-end UAV threat. A jamming and a classified request was submitted through channels that have not been publicly described. asking for the authorization to engage Iranian surveillance drones operating in international airspace over U.S. naval vessels. The existing ROE had not covered this scenario clearly. An unmanned aircraft conducting surveillance is not an armed threat. It has not fired, but it is, in the specific context of pre-strike targeting preparation, a critical link in the chain that ends with a 650-kilogram warhead arriving at high velocity from a ballistic trajectory. Destroying the link before the chain is complete is a different decision from responding to incoming fire. It requires a policy determination about preventive versus reactive defense. The authorization request was reviewed at the NSC level. The decision that came back was narrow and specific. U.S. naval commanders were authorized to engage Iranian unmanned aircraft conducting persistent surveillance of U.S. naval vessels in international airspace if the aircraft had been assessed by the theater commander as part of a pre-strike targeting preparation. The authorization was not a blanket shoot-down authority for any Iranian drone. It was a conditional authority tied to a specific threat assessment. The authority was logged. It has not been used publicly. In the 2 weeks following the Roosevelt overflight, 3 additional Iranian reconnaissance drones were detected in the strike group's radar picture. All 3 were intercepted by F/A-18S before completing a pass over the formation. In each case, the intercept aircraft made close visual contact with the drone, close enough to photograph it, to identify its type, and to demonstrate to the drone's operators that it had been detected. In each case, the drone turned away before the weapons-free question became necessary. The Iranian operators knew they had been seen. They turned the drones around. The surveillance campaign continued at lower intensity for the remainder of the deployment. The data collection did not stop. It became more cautious. The Roosevelt completed its deployment without a kinetic engagement against Iranian assets. The surveillance data Iran collected was real. The targeting package they built was real. The Khalij Fars missiles sitting in their hardened launch facilities 280 kilometers to the north were real. The chain of events from drone overflight to targeting package to missile launch authority was never completed on that deployment. It was interrupted by the position shift, by the upgraded air defense posture, and by the conditional engagement authority that made drone surveillance of the carrier a potentially costly operation for the operator. But interrupted is not the same as broken. Every carrier strike group that transits the Gulf of Oman operates within the range arc of the Khalij Fars. Every transit is an opportunity for the targeting preparation cycle to begin. Persistent drone surveillance, patient data collection, a final confirmation overflight, and then the decision, somewhere in the Iranian chain of command, about whether the conditions are right. The Roosevelt's air wing did not fire a single weapon against Iran during that deployment. Iran's intelligence collection cell produced a detailed targeting package for the carrier's position. Both of those facts are true simultaneously. The watch officer who first detected the drone contact at 14:28, 5 minutes before the overflight, completed his shift at 2000 that evening. He had flagged the contact correctly, assigned it a track number, and queued it for assessment in accordance with procedure. The procedure had a 5-minute assessment window. 5 minutes was not enough. After the incident, the assessment window for small contacts within 15 nautical miles of the carrier was reduced to 90 seconds. It is a small change. It is an important one. And somewhere in the Iranian intelligence cycle, the analysts who had spent 11 days building the Roosevelt's targeting package were already watching the next carrier. Stay vigilant, stay informed. I'll see you in the next one.